I think they're really just going for a strong laning combo here from Eboys. Like they've got Sven AA coming through. You can cold feet into the stun, get more stuns off, get a lot of damage flying through. Can be really potent for Eboys. Win Rain are gonna have to watch themselves. Like the Timber Saw is tanky. The level 3 is the point where you really want to hit that tankiness, and E-Boys can start playing around it from level 1 to level 2. So they've got an earlier laning spike to deal with. Of course, Sven into Timbersaw is a bit awkward. It's a strength hero. The Whirling Death is going to do a lot more here from that Timb. Going to make the Sven a little bit easier to manage there. But I think they're just looking for those combos in lane. So they're confident enough in executing it. Wind and Rain do go Gyrocopter. So Gyrocopter Oracle, they've got a really good False Promise target. They've got really good AoE damage, and they've got a core that can fight early. Like Gyrocopter can still flash farm the jungle, but for the most part, you kind of do want to apply some early laning pressure. You want to get off your damage with your Rocket Barrage and the Flak and the Call Down. There's a lot that you can do now with Wind and Rain compared to their Game 1 draft. So it is looking more aggressive. We should see them be able to take some fights earlier on. Not just going to be an AFK farm fest for Wind and Rain.
It is not, and the one thing I like about the gyro early on is the Rocket Barrage is going to be a real headache for this Sven, assuming you can be aggressive early on with this gyro. Later on, though, if the gyrocopters, I mean, we always see it, they kind of do rely on a bit of lifesteal with a flak cannon to be able to stand their ground. Usually you will want to go into a Satanic later on in this hero. The AA might cause you some big headaches, though, with that. Like, if you don't have that lifesteal late game into a Sven, it might be a little bit tough. The Sven's going to be able to get a lot of damage out. He's very high armor as well. You probably won't be able to rely on your Rocket Barrage later on because Sven won't care anymore about that 300, 400 damage. So I am getting a little bit concerned here for Wind and Rain's late game with this draft, just based off the fact that AA Ice Blast might just have too much impact this game number 2. If they could just slow down the AA and just kind of like maybe take her out before a team fight starts, or rather take him out before a team fight starts, it probably won't matter anyway. But I feel like if the Ancient Apparition's allowed to do what AA does, which is just get Ice Blast out before he dies, could be a problem.
Definitely. It's going to be a big issue. I think for Wind and Rain as well, we didn't really mention it, but they do have a natural disarm from their Oracle. So at the least, the Sven, if he jumps in with no BKB, it's going to be a bit harder for him to just get the hits off. And you're always going to have to worry about the Oracle just holding you back, taking some of your DPS output. But yeah, as the game goes on, the AA is going to be very important for E-Boys. And we have seen them be really good with spacing. And the AA doesn't have to be up front. The Snapfire in the last game, we saw them really position nicely for some good kisses. I think it should be relatively easy for E-Boys to get that same positioning done here. If they're in a tough spot, they have Stampede to save them. So there's some options here for E-Boys to protect their supports. Still, we're going into the last picks, looking for mid pickups. You do see all the Spirit Brothers banned out, except for Earth Spirit, but Earth Spirit mid hasn't been popping off recently, Mike, to your disappointment, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
So we'll have to see what else comes through.
Why'd you have to bring up the Earth Spirit, John? You know how depressed I get when I know he's not going to be picked up and you just talk about it. Wind and Rain, 5th pickup, 35 seconds left. I mean, you could go for it. That's the thing, right? Because you do need a way to get into the backlines and deal with the Snapfire AA.
Oh, no.
I know it's not going to be taken, John, but I'm just saying that it would answer some problems. They'll go for the Quap
Oh,
instead.
that was what I was thinking. Yeah, that's a lot better. You've got the Blink, you've got the Sonic Wave.
It's not a lot better, John. It's just different.
I thought you loved the Quap, Mike. What do you mean? Look at you. You're not simping right now. What's wrong?
If he has the Arcana, I'll change my mind. We'll see. Electronic Boys, 5th pickup for them. 9 seconds left of reserve time, John. What do you want? You need a mid lane right now up against the Quap. You don't have more popular options like, say, the Ember. They're going to go for the Invoker instead. Interesting stuff.
I like this. You've got a lot of laning potential here for Electronic Boys. You could justify the Sunstrike build, although more than likely not going to see that. But it ties in some necessary teamfight for Electronic Boys. Like they have some decent control with Centaur blinking in, getting big stomp off. Now they've got the follow-up with their Invoker. Speed can also get some good AoE control off with his Stormhammer. So they can kind of build off that team fight now. Wind and Rain, as you mentioned, I mean, the Quap coming through, the Arcana's there, so I'm sure you're very pleased, Mike. and so would Gods, but the Co-op can reach into the back, burst down the AA, play with a Sonic Wave. Laning for the Co-op here against Invoker shouldn't be too bad as well. And that's the one thing with Invoker, right? With the meta shift in mid to really emphasize early bottle. Invoker's not a natural bottle carrier. So you might not be getting as much here for the Invoker, although we have seen a couple of Invokers actually opt for a bottle just for the value. We'll see what Red does there, but a much stronger draft from Wind and Rain here for game number 2. I think game 1 draft was not ideal. This time around, they've got options to play aggressive, options to counteract what Electronic Boys wants to get done. We'll just have to see if the execution starts to line up as well here.
If it pans out, Electronic Boys, they're going to be one game away from winning the Series 2-0, and Wind and Rain, of course, they're going to try and force it back to a game 3. We are just about to get underway with this game number 2. But John, prediction please. Who came out with the better draft?
I still like Eboys draft. I think they've gotten a lot to play with. They've kind of gotten 2-3 strength heroes into a Timbersaw, but I think the timings they have to hit are a lot nicer. They've got this Invoker that can really do work, follow up on the AoE stuns they have on hand. The side of Wind and Rain, very sensitive in the laning start. Like, you want to have Cassius C apply as much pressure as you can with a Gyrocopter, find that early farm, get into perhaps that early Ags, as we tend to see really quick. If not, the Maelstrom should come out, and into the S and Y. So we need to see those key timings for the Gyro to start playing early on. And you really want to get a really strong start here for Sword. Like, we saw him go off to a slower start than the Slush. Timbersaw should be a lot easier to sort of just escalate in lane. Once you hit level 3, Steel Borko can just leave the lane, rotate mid, look for opportunities there. But a lot rides on this early game. If you start to lag behind here for Wind and Rain once more, it starts to become just the Gyrocopter, and he's going to have to share farm with a Co-op if Sabo doesn't get a good start as well. So you need to win out most of your lanes here to get that nice snowball start, to prevent yourself from lagging too far behind for Wind and Rain.
I like this positioning right now from Wind and Rain, just on the side. They know with the Gyrocopter they've got very strong level 1 timing, because you've got the Fortune's End plus the Rocket Barrage. They were going to try and find out where this Invoker's gone, but it looks like instead they're just going to settle with going after the Observer Ward, and they will be able to take it out very early, which should give Sabo a bit of an advantage in the mid lane on the Quap. That'll be about it. A 2-for-2 start, very even. But again, Wind and Rain, a bit of an advantage with that Observer Ward dying.
Yeah, just a little bit more coming out. More control down mid is always good to see. Still see the lanes break out. AA is up top with his Snapfire, along with Giant on that center. They are going to be laning up against Cassius C. And, well, for now, a tri-lane down bot. So Cassius C is going to be left alone. Of course, Gyrocopter against Centaur isn't too bad. You can stand way far back. You can play with Flat Cannon for farm. They do drag in Y now to help out that Gyro. AA, of course, will just want to play with his Blightstone, try to get some harassment off. Scatterblast is leveled first, so you're not going to see the emphasis on the minus armor, but he is just trying to snipe out the range creep. But a good deny comes through, so you're not getting that additional EXP here for Eboys.
I like this switch up from AA. Like, going for the Scatterblast over the little Shredder does seem to make a bit more sense in this lane, because you do have a lot of kill potential right up against the Gyro and the Oracle. I think even just the slow from the Scatterblast is going to be quite impactful, especially when you have a Centaur who's looking to close the gap and try to get that hoof stomp off. I do prefer it much more than the little Shredder in this lane. We'll see if he does opt to just go ahead and max out the Scatterblast plus Cookie instead of the Cookie plus little Shredder. As Y is taking a lot of damage on this Oracle. Going to try and go for a bit of a pull, but is going to be off the mark. We'll have a look at the mid lane, John, where Sabo is going to be up against Red too. It's like for now, Red's having a pretty decent time. Should argue that the Quap should have an advantage, but Red going for the Quas Wex is going to mean he has plenty of regen anyway. So chances are he should be able to sustain himself quite nicely in this lane.
Yeah, it's not going to be too tough for Invoker. He is ranged, so you can stand far away enough from the Quap that the Scream of Pain and the Shadow Strike are going to be harder for Sabo to cast. So he's going to have to be conscious of that. If you do get a mid-rotation out, it could be really potent. The Invoker does not deal with that early on.
Oh, Flat Cannon. Cassius C does manage to get the first blood this time around. AA the one to drop on the Snapfire, and he's still level 1, so he couldn't really do much to get away. Definitely a great start here for Wind and Rain.
Yeah, I mean, they need that gold injection. You want to see the Gyrocopter try to dominate that lane with all his magic damage. Double A will have to watch that spacing. Once you get some levels up here on the Oracle, they've got a ton of burst. They can melt you down with Purifying Flames. They can run you down with the Homing Missile and hit you from a mile away with a Flak. So watch that magic damage timing here for the side of Eboys. Hold steady. Just get your combination with a cookie up down the line and just wait for that EXP to flow in. Back to that mid lane. Yeah, Sabo, again, he's doing well enough, but Red 2 is working that range advantage quite nicely. Already at level 3, so even more HP regen on hand with a Quas. Of course, the one issue for Invoker in his mid lane is that Bottle is not a natural buildup. So Sabo is always going to have that nice bit of regen to play with. His Bottle is flying in the Courier now. Red, did he opt for one on his Courier? No. So no Bottle on the Invoker as you'd expect, which means that these water runes are just that much better for Sabo. The treatment bounty rune is going to be more value as well. And that means he's not going to be completely zoned out here by Red.
Yeah, I do agree that that's going to be a bit of an issue here for Eboys. Sabo should really just be able to get every single rune, assuming he wants to. Might mean he's spending a little bit of time out of the lane, but if you just push the lane in onto the Radiant side and then just go secure them, you'd be pretty happy. In fact, he's going to let Red take one at the top side. He'll go for the bottom instead. That's just fine. Meanwhile, the bot lane speed, looks like he did end up losing his Courier. Not too big of a deal, though. But he got his brown boots out, and it looks like he is struggling just a little bit up against Sword and the Timber, but that's to be expected. It's definitely not the easiest of lanes right now for Speed and the Sven, and right now they are going to take a lot of damage out onto the Sven. That Whirling Death just does way too much up against the Strength Hero.
Definitely does. His HP drops so fast. On the bright side, Speed, despite this kind of lane matchup, is still keeping up in farm. He's not behind at all. Like, he's matching Sword's pace. Not the ideal result here for the Timbersaw. I think he'd like a little bit more pressure. This is the one issue with Timbersaw's line. Like, normally as a Timbersaw, you want a support that can leave you and just play mid instead. Lion can do that, but he'd like some EXP soaking in the side lane as well, which is not beneficial for the Tim. So you've got this clash of timings that you want to hit. Still Borko does have the smoke for mid.
Why? Top lane does end up killing off Double A again. Borko just hanging around the water rune for now. Sabo, he'll take one. Looks like still Borko will just go ahead and take the other. Red, break the smoke of still Borko. Sabo didn't have blink, but it won't matter. He'll go in with the Shadow Strike and just kind of walk his way in. Red is still trying to run away and is going to be just fine as Double A. Just TP in on the Snapfire to make sure that his Invoker does stay safe. By the way, John, we got an answer to the question I had earlier. Looks like our Snapfire Double A does end up going for the little Shredder instead of the Cookie. So no stun available on the Snapfire. I thought they might... Oh, actually, mid lane, Earthspike flies out again. Red is in big trouble. Now Swords pause the game. Perhaps some more FPS issues happening here, but I think for Red, he's just borderline gone.
Yeah, he's got a Fairy Fire. I don't think it's going to be enough. Sabo can just walk up, get the Scream of Pain off. There is a right click flying in as well, so should be enough damage to kill off the Invoker. But yeah, just being a bit greedy there in Red. He sticks around the lane. He knows the co-op's around. He didn't see the line go. They don't have a mid ward. Look at the emphasis here from the side of Windrain. They've got one ward up on the furthest ramp. It's about to expire. They already preemptively set a ward to replace it. They just want to keep that pressure on mid. And if you do shut down the Invoker early on, it becomes very hard for him to play catch-up. Like, no Midas build-up here for Red. He is just going to have to try and work his way around the map to find those kills to maximize this earn into Spirit Vessel he's likely going for. And it is just a bit harder to catch up on the Invoker once you fall behind.
Here we go. Reconnection out from Sword. I mean, the Fairy Fire definitely should not be enough. Mind you, Sabo doesn't really have the blink up right now, but as long as he gets the Shadow Strike to connect, it should be more than enough to just hold down Red, and they have a Hex anyway. So he had no chance in hell of getting out. Very nice, though. Rotation from still Borko, and Wind and Rain now, they can apply some mid-tier 1 tower pressure.
Yeah, they get some nice chip damage going, not the most damage out. But the start for Wind and Rain now is at 0-3, less than 1k lead on their end. Every single lane, except perhaps bot, really lining up for them. Bot lane, I think speed is getting a little more than you'd want on that Sven. Like, he's up there in last, it's 51-1. His Mask of Madness timing still lined up. That he can just dip into the jungle, then you'd have to commit some years from Wind and Rain to start rotating on that Sven while he's weak, while he's trying to play catch-up. So the win condition for Eboys still at least getting that farm up. You do worry about how slow the offlane is. Like, as you mentioned, with no cookie, it just feels like you're missing out on this massive hoof stomp chain stun combination. And, you know, Lil Shredder's nice, but Giant can't really play with a minus armor. He's going to have to gap close against 2 ranged heroes. Not ideal. As, well, he isn't that mobile, he doesn't have Stampede, and just makes it harder to actually play with your laning combination on hand.
The unfortunate thing as well, John, is the one counter towards that combo is still at level 1. Cassius C, he went for level 1 Rocket Barrage, and he maxed out Flak Cannon.
Red?
He'll throw out the homing missile now. Giant should be alright. Meanwhile, Red is going to die in the mid lane, but Giant falls very, very low, still trying to run with the Hood of Defiance up. Go for the TP play. Why? Doesn't have Fortune's End yet. Can't cancel it off. It's definitely a real struggle here for Eboys. The top and mid lane. How did Red die, by the way, John?
Oh, he was just jumped again. A rotation out from Steel Borko. He's just been sticking around mid. Makes it nearly impossible for Red to sustain. And there's just not much of that aggression coming out here from Eboys. Like, their supports do not rotate well at all. Like, the Snapfire is nice. You can maybe try to play with a cookie, but just don't have that presence you did in game 1. And now Wind and Rain managed to take that bot tier 1 as well. Sword having that free space to just do what Timbersaws do. Tank the tower. Get the creeps focusing in. With the siege creep up, it doesn't take too much time. You see speed already dipping into the jungle. The Mask of Madness is up. So still not too bad of a timing on the Sven. You just need to maximize that. But look at this. Steel Borko knows what's supposed to happen here. All he drops a really nice forward ward to watch that jungle.
Yeah, I like that, right? As a position 4, position 5, position 3, you just want to be very annoying towards the opposing position 1. The speed is still going to hang around the bot side of the map because there is creeps underneath his tier 2 tower. I think he is slowly but surely going to have to make his rotation into the triangles. Mid lane, Red. He's gone again. Wind and Rain really making their side look very good in this game number 2. Meanwhile, top side, they lose Albino Zebra. Why? He's going to go in with Cassius C. Giant, still a tanky boy. He's going to be able to back off. Still going rather roughly here for Wind and Rain. They are still yet to pick up the kill on their end. Just sitting at 0 kill score. Wind and Rain are looking to just take over the map. Sabo moving in now. The Hex is out onto Giant. He'll go on to AA instead. EMP Tornado is going to fly out. Sabo, he gets stunned up by the cookie. He will die in the end, but they get to Giant. They get AA. Still Borko dropping quite low. Going to die to Albino Zebra, but here comes the cavalry. Right onto the AA. They will get another, and they found all the stacks.
Thanks for playing Dota 2.
Oh god.
Double kill.
This is terrible for Eboys. They really need those stacks to catch up. This would have gone to their Sven, but now they've just fed the Gyrocopter a huge amount of gold. Really well played coming out from Wind and Rain. 2-9 now, 3k lead up, and this is just gonna get worse. There's no space for Speed to really get stacks of his own now. He's just playing in that bot jungle. It's still not safe for the ward. They're gonna have to try to make something happen here with Red.
Gonna try, EMP out, Fate's Edict gonna block off all the damage output. Red won't be able to kill off Y, instead going into Cassius C, but you have the false promise there on Y. So as long as the Oracle's alive, it's kind of hard to expect anyone dying there on Wind and Rain. Hey boys, it looks like it might turn into one of those games where you are going to be heavily reliant on Speed just farming up the whole time. But he is losing a lot of map space. And considering those stacks we're taking in the triangle, you are really just kind of searching for answers right now for your E-boys.
Yeah, they just don't have the map control that Wind and Rain has. Look at all the wards. 3 of them are in that bot jungle, that bot area across the river. 1 ward to watch for Cassius. He's farming very well protected. They've got some sentries here in E-boys, but they just barely miss out on that obs. And because of that, they're just never going to have proper control here on the triangle. They're always going to spot the stacks out here on Wind and Rain. What Eboys need to do now is play to their strengths. Play with Giant. He's pretty strong and tanky with a hood. Clear out tier 1, try to maybe open up that top turn with the horn.
They're going to go in onto the Oracle. Why? Caught out by the stun, is going to die. TPs were coming in to try and help out, but they do cancel them off as there was no point. This is very important for Eboys to just get these tier 1 towers down ASAP. Give Speed some more space.
Oh, Speed?
Speaking of the devil, Speed is in danger. He needs some help. There's no TPs coming in. They let him die. They'll keep going after that top tier 1 tower. I'm not sure about that. I mean, you had 3 TPs available on these three heroes. It doesn't feel so worth letting Speed die like that.
I know. I mean, they get some map control back. I just wonder why Speed was in bot in the first place. It feels like he should have joined a push up top. It should have been maybe one of the sports down bot instead. But with 2 lanes shoved in, and he had to have 2 bodies there to throw out. So it had to be Speed. He was in the right spot. Just gets punished for it. Their tier 2 though, still being pressured nicely. Sword just tanking through that tier 2 damage quite well. And it is dropping faster. So siege creep here. You don't want to give the tier 2 this early on for the side of Eboys, but it looks like they just feel like they have no other choice.
No, I don't think they can really fight the Timber per se, especially if it's not kind of like a surprise initiation. They're trying to set up on the gyrocopter top, but well, Cassius C is just very happy hanging around that tier 2 tower, and of course they're not going to go for the dive on the tier 2. So Eboys not finding an opening yet. 3-10, 3k net worth lead for Wind and Rain. Speed, no, he's going to get spotted. There was an Observer Ward waiting. He went for the God Strength, but he may pay for it now. Fingers out, but EMP Tornado is in. Sonic Wave not out yet. They will get him though, but they might give up Sabo, who still tries to go for that ulti. Now still Borko dies the sword, is going for a bit of a farm time on the Ancient. Here comes Double A with the cookie now to hold down the Timber into the hoof stop, but Y is going to be around with the False Promise just in case. And now they know they can't kill him. There's no Ice Blast up. Giant, he's going to try and run away from Sword. Looks like he just might make it as Red is going to go back into the backlines onto Y and try to force out that False Promise. But Y is being very patient. Double A now going to be chased down by Sword. Speed is around with the stun out, but Double A is going to die. Still the Ice Blast is in now. Maybe they have the damage output, but Sabo TP's in. Red still trying along with Giant, but they just don't have the damage. Sword is going to survive. Sabo not even needing to throw out the Sonic Wave. And well, while this is all happening, Cassius C is still just freely farming on the gyrocopter. That's going to be very bad news for Eboys.
Yeah, they're just not finding big wins. They finally get the D ward under triangle, so it's now safe for Speed to farm, but they should have known that the ward was there for such a long time. It was in a very sneaky spot right outside their bottom sentry though, so a tough spot for the ward to spot, but it does work well for Wind and Rain. It was 5-12. As you mentioned, Cassius C just AFK farming to his heart's delight. Has the Ags up. This is when the gyrocopter starts to feel really tough to handle. Like, he's got a lot of damage, he's got a lot of good stats, lots of HP to dig through. E-Boys, we have seen moments where they can get pickoffs. They just need a little bit more in speed. Get the Echo Saber up, get the BKB up. Suddenly your Sven is going to hit a lot harder. They just need to keep holding out until then.
Giant, mid lane, looks like he's been targeted. Why? Onto Zen. He's going to connect. Sword. It's going to be a little bit annoying here for Giant. Cold Feet are there. Meanwhile, the top side, Double A, has been caught by Sabo. TP out of Speed now, gonna pop the God Strength. Sabo, blink up in 5 seconds, and he does have a haste rune. No, Giant, great hoof stomp out. That's a great hoof stomp. Blinks right in on target. Sword, he's gonna try and go in on Albino Zebra, but he might be in trouble now. They've got the Veil out. Giant, trying to get another nice stun. Won't have the Stampede to close the gap. Instead, might just turn out onto Y. Ice Blast is going to be there. The Fate's Edict Was out to block the magic damage, but they've got the control now. Why? He's in big danger. There's your call down to try and help out, but it's not going to be quite enough. Not for the Oracle. Instead, they'll go on a Giant. They'll get the Centaur, and they'll go back onto red. Cassius C is going to die, or rather get double A with a double kill, but red's the one who has to just run. There's war. I'm just going to keep chasing, but they won't find the Invoker. Problem is, though, you see when the Gyrocopter gets involved, John, it does become rather difficult to try and contest the team fight.
It really does. Like, you still don't have an answer for the Timbersaw here. Sorry, for the Gyrocopter here. You kind of have to blow your blink and stun combo on everyone else, and it has been looking good from Giant. Like, just having this blink on hand has given Eboys angles to approach these fights. Yeah, just have to be a bit cautious. You still need the speed to be ready to join in. Has the Echo Saber, but is being chased down. Should be fine. The side of Wind and Rain, though, a couple of deaths there that shouldn't have happened. Like, really just unfortunate. Giant managing to find a good blink on Sabo, I think makes that pretty worthwhile for Eboys, despite having some losses in the follow-up fight. You just build up on the Sven. You're trying to force the issue of Sven versus Gyro, and there's a lot of back and forth there. I think in terms of Divine Cares, of course, Gyro's a bit better, but
they've caught the Quap. EMP gonna connect. We'll still be able to blink away. A casual tornado being thrown out at the end. Mid, double A, gonna be spotted. Sword gets the Yules off. Call down is out. Cookie is there too, though. Just getting himself out with the Stampede. Still, seems like Wind and Rain more than happy to just keep the aggression up. I don't quite blame them either. Like, you've got the Axe on Cassius C, so got plenty of damage output right now. I suppose at some stage they know that speed might be a really big issue on this Sven. Not quite yet, but perhaps a bit later on, especially once he's got that BKB up. He is working towards right now. Still mid lane. Wind and Rain, Sword. Still being aggressive. Tornado gonna land. EMP is out. There's your Hoof Stop. They're gonna drain all the mana into the Ice Blast now, and they will get Sword. Just playing a little bit too confidently in that mid lane. Nobody else from Wind and Rain was around to help him out. Eboys do take a very important kill for themselves.
and they're keeping that game in check. The 5k lead goes down to just 4k for the side of Wind and Rain. So you have to be careful about tossing out that Timbersaw up front that often. Like, he's got the Yules to play with, he's got the Hood of Defiance, but the burst damage is there from Eboys. They've got control, they've got the follow-up. So you need to respect that. Don't bleed out too hard here. Speed is still getting some massive space out now. As mentioned, the BKB just one part away. So once you have that in the Sven, feels a lot nicer for Speed to stand in front. The weird thing with Gyrocopter against Sven is it feels like Gyrocopter's damage, while great, once you get the Warcry off, the physical damage output of Gyro isn't amazing. So you will have to watch it. Like, the durability is there.
Picks up the Haste Rune. Sabo tried to go for the silence, but the Haste Rune's going to let him get out quite freely. Eboys, they are still behind. They are desperately trying to catch up. You've got that BKB now being worked on by Cassius C, and it's going to make this Gyrocopter much harder to deal with in the middle of the team fight. Speed. He's just a recipe off now. Do you think he gets involved with the BKB, or do you just wait out the blink first?
You'd want the blink. You don't have good gap close on the Sven unless you commit Stampede. So if you have that spell, you can join in for Speed. Still, a rotation out from Wind and Rain. They take the top tier 1. They're smoked up for the defense here. Could wrap around.
They are. Giant. So he'll be targeted. Chain Note. Nice blink away. Stampede. Just pop defensively. Just get everyone out of there. And the mid tier 1 tower ended up dropping anyway. Creep Wave took care of it. So a very nice play there by Eboys. Wind and Rain. They'll try to find another opening for themselves, but I mean, I suppose at this stage you may as well just wait for Cassius C to have the BKB up himself in the Gyrocopter. Wind and Rain, they are still going to push in mid. Just not sure if this is a smart idea here for Sword, but he does have his team behind him, at least this time around. Speed going right to the backside. He's going to pop the God Strength, but doesn't have that blink. He's still charging in, but there is the Earth Spike. Tornado is going to land onto still Borko. Who are they aiming for, however? They'll go on to Sword the Timber. The stun is going to land. Ice Blast to fly out with the Mortimer's Kisses. It should be enough. The Face Edict not going to be enough to save him. Now Giant taking a lot of damage. Speed cops the finger, but there's your BKB out. Sonic Wave has been thrown out. Sabo, he'll kill off Giant, but there's your cookie there from Double A to hold him down. The chase is on. Cassius C, Sabo, and Borko moving forward. They'll be able to get the Snapfire. So a 1-for-2 trade in the end. Still favorable for Wind and Rain. At least in terms of Golden XP. And well, for Eboys, you got the Timber at least, but there was a lot of running around and a lot of shenanigans there in that mid-team fight. Obviously, Speed really wanted to get the supports in the backline first to fully commit to the team fight, but I guess it goes back to not having that blink up and not really being able to initiate without blink or Stampede.
Yeah, I mean, the BKB flew out the mid-fight there for Speed. He didn't manage to use it at the start. If he didn't get impaled, you might have been able to clear out those supports in the back line in that triangle area and take the fight from there. Instead, he had to focus the big tanky target. They had to blow all their spells, and now Speed is fairly far forward.
Definitely a dangerous position here for Speed. BKB up in 5 seconds. Looks like they're not going to be able to hold him down anyway. In fact, he's going to run into the jungle himself now. His team is not behind him, but he's confident with the BKB that he'll be able to just TP out. Now Red's shown up though. But he's about 700-800 gold away from the blink. He'll just wait it out.
Yeah, might as well be patient here.
Run out. Speed. He's going to run. Cassius C going to chase him down. They have even more help coming in here. Call down. Going to be committed. Speed. This might be about that time to pop the BKB, but not yet. He's still holding. Now he does. Sabo going to be targeted on the Quap. It's a lot of damage. They even found still Borko on the Lion into Cassius C. Now they want the big one. They'd love the Gyrocopter, but they can't close the gap. Not yet, at least. Giant is still trying to catch up, but they are well and truly gone. Still going to be a 2-for-0 trade here for Eboys, and I suppose you've still got to be very happy about that.
Yeah, it's a massive spike now. Speed does have that blink on hand. Look at the gap with the Gyro and the Sven. It's not big enough for Cassius C to feel good. Like, the Gyro just feels like it should naturally farm faster with Flak versus the Mask of Madness of the Sven, but it's not lining up. So eventually Speed's gonna take over. That's where it gets scary for the Gyro. Like, again, Sven into Gyro is super weird because Cassius C's physical damage doesn't feel amazing once Warcry flies out. It's so much armor on Speed, especially if he gets something like the AC down the line, and then you're really gonna have damage issues on the Gyro. We need to see some damage items for Cassius C. I'd say a Maelstrom in this case, even after this SNY should do the job, but that's still more form they need to build in. Wind and Rain have to be a bit careful in chasing these kinds of fights out. They're not respecting the turnaround potential of Eboys. They're not respecting the fact that there is some good damage, some good team fight on hand, and they're giving an opportunity for Eboys to bounce back in. A 3k lead at 23 minutes in is still nice. It's not nearly wide enough to have a big advantage. Like, the gap between the cores aren't that wide except for Giant. Giant's the only one lagging behind the Centaur compared to everyone else. Still not too bad. He still gets the work done with just the blink and the Hood of Defiance. Still, Wind and Rain do smoke up once more.
A line was drawn out to Red, but the Red, he senses something Orion. He just TPs right out of there. Wind and Rain still smoked up. Might even find a better target now, but Sword is going to have his smoke broken, and Speed naturally will back off for a bit and wait out his team. Sabo will show himself. Sword going to get cold snapped, but he'll be okay for now. Instead, Cassius C going to frontline for the team. Let's have his BKB up as the Tornado is going to fly through. Ryan, he's smoked up. Speed going to go in. They go straight after the Oracle. They want him gone. Can they get him? Why? No, he's going to survive the false promise. No, never mind. They get the Ice Blast in. Still Speed is quite low. Cassius C could finish him off now, and he does. Gyrocopter gets the kill on the Sven, but Sabo is also going to drop. They'll get Giant on the Centaur. It was a 2-for-3 trade as Borko did buy back. Now Albino Zebra should eventually die to that flak cannon, and does. It was a great initiation, but it felt like they had to commit too much to kill off the Oracle in the end. And well, now for Wind and Rain, after basically evening out that team fight, they will rush the Roshan pit. Speed does not have buyback, so it's going to be very hard to contest this.
They have to be a bit careful. I don't think they killed the Roche fast enough. The respawn center is coming through. If they wanted to be cheeky, they could try, but it looks like Eboys are going to be conservative. So a free Roche out here for Wind and Rain. That's going to be an Aegis up now for Cassius C, protecting him in the front lines. The Eboys just a bit awkward in the last fight. The BKB coming through from Speed did not feel impactful. He was still melting through. The Sonic Wave managed to clip him, and that pure damage was enough to really make it awkward for the Sven. So have to watch positioning of Sabo there, and Speed probably just needs a little bit more protection. The AC is going to be more than enough with a Solar Crest on top of him, so I think at that point, Speed should feel comfy enough against the Gyro. The gap has widened again. It's about 2k between the Sven and Gyro, so it's good news for Cassius C. He's having just one item advantage up, has the full SNY ready, is going for a Crystallis instead of a Maelstrom, so he just wants to get the crit damage off the big numbers flying.
Oh, Cookie. Red just turned around and the Cookie was way off the mark there. I suppose it was probably better they backed off though, as Wind and Rain were around. Cassius C, along with that Aegis, does have the SNY up, so he's a lot harder to kill now with that added status resist and has a bit more damage. Going straight into the Crystallis next. Mid lane, Sword, gonna be spotted. Red needs to be careful. Earthspike off the mark. Ice Blast is on the mark, and Borko, he's gonna melt Sword. He's gonna be alright. Just a lot of damage output as now they go in onto the Gyrocopter. Speed with the Cookie, gonna stun up the Oracle. They'll kill off Y, and he wants to keep going for more now. He found Sabo on the quad, but he'll blink away. Cassius, he's been left alone. He popped his BKB, that'll be the Aegis gone. They find him a second time. Y, he's brought back. Cassius is gonna be left alone. The Sword is gonna miss the chains. The chain went straight through that tree.
It's a really good win for Eboys. They managed to force out the Aegis here. And you can see the issue again. Like, when a Sven commits onto you with his ult, with Warcry, there's no damage in this Gyro yet. Like, there's just no way you pierce through all that armor on this hero, and you can't match the damage output of that God's strength. So you have to be careful when you fully commit on Cassius C.
Sword gets stunned up. The Tornado Ice Blast is going to fly in. He does connect before the use comes out. Sabo going to try and help. Speed is still around with the stun out. Lotus Orb does save the day. Now the call down Sonic Wave is out from Sabo. It's a lot of damage output as now Speed just gets bursted along with Albino Zebra. Double A, he's going to try and TP, but they should have enough, and they do. They thought they'd have enough to burst down Speed, or rather Sword, but I think the problem was the Tornado kind of bought enough time for Sword to just get himself out, get his own Yules up, and his team just closes the gap so darn quick.
Yeah, I mean, they forced the fight knowing that the side of Wind and Rain were still in that jungle area. The BKB on Speed wasn't off cooldown, so it wasn't very safe in the front. And when Rain get that punishment out for trying to commit so hard, I guess I get Eboys feel pressured to make these plays. They were really evenly matched until that loss, though. So they have to be really careful in overcommitting. The high ground now going to be pierced by Cassius C, and the damage output for the Gyro is consistent. They will be up in time to defend. You need to make something happen here.
That's still great chip damage there from Cassius C. So they'll be done with it. No need to risk going high ground without the Aegis up, and of course you look back to that Gyrocopter, John. Cassius C so close to just having a full Daedalus up. You may as well just spend a few minutes to farm it up and just have that crazy kind of damage output. Speed, his damage, it's high, but not quite high enough yet. Mind you, he does have a Crystallis, but it's not doing quite enough. In fact, here come the TPs. Wind and Rain, Sabo gonna go on Speed, but no, he blinked in. He's gonna get punished immediately. Sabo is gonna die. Now the Ice Blast is out onto Sword. He's gonna try and get himself out, but the Hoof Stomp is gonna hold him down. They'll give him the false promise to give him more time, and still Borko now with the finger just burst down Giant. But they are gonna lose Y. Speed. The backside did get the Oracle. 2-for-1 trade. And even with that 6k net worth lead from Wind and Rain, you really see how even this game is. It's just so much about who gets the right initiation.
Yeah, it's all a matter of whether or not Speed can use the BKB to be impactful. Sabo cannot risk jumping in anymore. It has to just be the Timber Saw. Once you're sure that the disables are used up on Eboys, that's when you can follow up. But you know, you can't have the Quack going aggressive too far forward without knowing where everyone else is. Once you lose that, if you can't get Sonic Wave off, Speed is very secure in these fights. And he's actually opting for his full Daedalus now as well, not going for the AC first. So you're going to have very similar Daedalus timings here from both sides. And that's just going to mean that the damage output for both will match up once more.
Top lane, Sword. E-boys are around, but without Speed, you don't have the damage, do you? Chaos Meteor, Ice Bar. Okay, maybe you do have the damage. Sword is still tied to the Cold Snap. That's a lot of damage, but he's not going to die yet. But Speed with the cleave. The cleave gets him. They even get Still Borko. Never mind me, John. Apparently Chaos Meteor is a hell of a spell. The cleave from the Sven, in the end, getting the job done.
Yeah, you're at the point now where you've got this Alacrity combo with Speed. He can really just rip through you now as well. The towers just melt if you don't manage to get the defense off. So Wind and Rain, they're stuck in a very precarious spot. There's a lot of damage output coming through here from E-Boys. Wind and Rain do finish up the Daedalus here in Cassia C. I'm just not sure if the Gyrocopter is going to be big enough to really deal with Speed. It feels like Speed, within 700 to 1,000 gold of that Gyro, is in a very comfy spot. They threaten high ground.
On to Cassia C, BKB forced already. Speed going to be very careful though. Sonic Wave going to fly out. He does pop his BKB and just goes for a run. The Stampede even popped. And yes, he does need to be very careful. That homing missile is not going to quite reach him. He does blink away. And somehow they get everyone out of there. But for both teams, you are getting to that stage of the game where you do need the Aegis. You aren't going to want to go high ground without it. Unless you get a full team wipe beforehand. You're not going to feel too safe without that Aegis having that secondary line on that high ground of the opponent.
Yeah, it's just difficult. You need that safety net. Have to say, E-Boys, Speed is being way too aggressive. We've seen him do this a couple times, where he blinks in very deep, doesn't find the initiation he'd want, and he's just forced to retreat. I think you need someone else to start these fights, really. It needs to be Giant or really good spell use from Red. You don't want to risk Sven so far forward. If Speed died there, that would have been a massive turnaround for Wind and Rain. That would have given them a clear advantage to go into high ground or just secure that Roche. And they just kind of counter Lucky Stars that there were enough bodies there to bail him out. Still, E-Boys, they do smoke up if they want to get something done. God Strength is on cooldown, but the BKB is up here, so they could try to just stun lock someone, but doesn't look like anyone's nearby to get that initiation on.
I think they can just run straight to the die triangle here. I think that's probably the most obvious place they'd be farming, but there is a line drawn out towards Cassia C. Another line being drawn out towards Still Borko. Naturally, you'd love to get the Gyrocopter if you can, but I think it might be a little bit too challenging when he has the BKB up. Indeed, they are going to run into the triangle where they'll find Still Borko if he sticks around, but it looks like he's going to be able to run away into the mid lane. They'll see Sword instead. Speed, he's just going to jump in. No thinking about it. Ice Blast is there with the hoof stop. They've got the Timber, but Sword is going to be saved by the False Promise, at least for now. But there's your Chaos Meteor. Eventually, he will just die, I think. No, he'll survive. Damage wasn't there. Speed, though, he just came in, still kills off Sabo and Sword by himself. That was a bit unexpected, Speed, but he gets 2 for free.
Yeah, he finally gets that good backline jump he wants. The Gyrocopter is just in a very awkward position where he doesn't want to counter-initiate just yet. And, you know, you're stuck in an awkward spot as well for E-Boys.
Oh, Borko, that's a lot of damage. 2 crits in a row. They found another, the hoof stomp in from Giant. They found everyone. Cassius, he's going to try and fight, but it's not going to be good enough. I'll tell you what, John, Giant's been doing a great job this game on this Centaur. These stuns have been absolutely on point.
Yeah, he has really set up for his team. Ever since he got the blink, he's been guys setting up for the side of Eboys to find that good position, to find those openings out. And with that full team wipe, they've got the net worth lead. They're going into the high ground now. They could easily dip into the Roche if they, after finding a tier 3, even maybe one of these racks. And this is the point where it gets very scary for Win and Raid. It feels like they're not big enough in the gyro. There's no item advantage at all on Cassius. Speed is matching that farm, despite that rough start. So they never managed to get that big snowball off, and with that melee racks gone, I think Roche should be the next big play. There is a ward here from Win and Raid, so they'll know the Roche is up. They'll know the Roche is happening, but they don't have a buyback on the gyro, and 40 seconds is a pretty darn long time for the Roche. It should just fall, but it's still, you know, a minute off, so a little bit more patience there.
Yeah, certainly. They can go back in mid, though. Like, they've got the net worth advantage now. If they get a massive team fight, they could go high ground again. And without the gyrocopter, this could be really bad as the Stampede now is popped. Still Borko, nice blink away. He's going to survive, but they found why. The Oracle, I would argue, is even more important to take down. The sword is going to chain out. Speed, he's feeling the momentum now. You were talking earlier on about him just blinking in very aggressively. It is working out now, Johnny. It seems like that's the way to play this Sven at this point.
Oh yeah, at this point he's way too farmed to ignore. He's got the Daedalus up, he can crit true even without the God Strength. He does a ton of damage. Inside of Wind and Rain, they're playing without the Oracle. It is very risky. And they've got to be a bit cautious about coming in without that false promise. There is a double damage rune though, so Cassius is going to have an option. There's a smoke up here, 4 versus 5. But with DD up, Cassius can try ripping through those enemy heroes.
This might hurt. You've got the Daedalus there, just so much damage with the DD rune. Roshan's up now as well. This could be very, very good timing for Wind and Rain. Mind you, the Aghanim Scepter now up on red, but it's in his backpack. He's going to drag it in. Gotta be careful about that Cataclysm. He may not be expecting it if Giant, if he can get a good hoof stomp off, and it could be right now. Cassius, no. Giant waits it out, a bit of hesitation. One hoof stomp with the Cataclysm could be enough to just blow up Cassius C. Or probably not quite enough, but a couple right clicks in the mix and suddenly it's looking very scary. Red. Sneak around onto Sabo. Sword. Stunned up. Ice Blast is there. Hex is out. Still Borko, but Speed's in. He blows up the line. Cassius C gonna try and go after the Centaur first, but they're gonna lose their Timbersaw in the process. Still Speed. Oh, Speed got a little bit too excited. Speed's died on the Sven. They found another. They will take down Double A. And we were talking about that double damage rune. Cassius C is doing way too much damage. Still, the buybacks are there. Both teams seem to be aware that Roshan might be up. Speed can't afford to die back. Not right now. Cassius, he still has that DD rune active. They show the Roshan HP. Almost kind of baiting them in, but you've got to wait out the DD, and now it's gone. Hex up on Sabo. This could be great timing. Speed just jumped in, but he doesn't have a BKB up. The Hex is there, but the Earth Spike will not connect, and the Stampede will save the day. Still Albino Zebra dropping quite low. Cassius C, a nice call down. Ice Blast is out just before he dies. Now Red with the Deafening Blast. He's going to push them back, trying to buy himself some time and space. But Wind and Rain could just rush for the Roshan now, knowing the AA and the Ice Blast is gone for another minute. And Eboys, I don't know if they could actually go for this fight. Buybacks are quite low. In fact, they have none. Roshan, still up. Giant, he's the one who needs to initiate, but he cannot. It is all done. Eboys, they are just going to run away.
Really awkward buybacks from Eboys after that last fight. They lose their advantage, they give away to Roche, they feel like they're forced to take fights now, and now they don't have the safety net of Aegis from the buybacks. It's a very awkward position here for the side of Eboys. Wind and Rain, one good team fight could end this game. So they're going to be looking to just line up look for those opportunities to get that advantage on. You've got the blink up now here on Y, so it's easier for the Oracle to get in good spot to cast that false promise. He can keep himself safe in the back line. Eboys are going to have to work even harder to catch him out and get the nuke off to prevent the false promise from flying through. You've got the Scotty up in Cassius C, even more stats for the Gyro, 4.4k HP on the Gyro. Plus, you've got good slows to control up the Sven speed. Once BKB fades, he's not going to have a good time against that Scotty. He's definitely going to have control issues there. A bit more kiting to come out. And it just complicates the approach for Eboys. Like, they have no buybacks, they have no Aegis, their map is cleared out, no tier 2s left. And they need to either stall out through the Aegis and through the buyback timer, or try to force something big and kill a Gyrocopter 2 times over.
Leveler now up on Cassius C, and he's just rushing the Aghanim's Blessing to buy himself another slot. Speed's having a bit of an item problem here with the neutral items. It's got an Illusionist Cape, Spider Legs, and a Penta-Edged Sword. So he's going to kind of just juggle through all of them, as all of them are pretty darn good on the Sven. It's kind of hard though, because you want to hold the Spider Legs, but you don't when you've got a Penta-Edged Sword or an Illusionist Cape. Like, you want that added mobility, but at the same time, more damage is always kind of nice when you've got a Daedalus up on a Sven. It's a very hard decision to make.
Yep. Not enough space there. I'd say the Penta-Edged Sword takes the priority. It's just really nice. The damage helps you out. You do have the full AC up now as well on the speed. So they are a bit more protected from the physical damage. Scotty's still going to do a lot of work. They are ripping through that bot tower though.
He's got a Ninja Gear now, John, so he can really sneak up from the backside here on the Sven. Still, Cassius C is still going onto that high ground and making very short work of it. Tornado off the mark. Speed, he's smoked up in the backside with that Ninja Gear, but he's not finding an opening. Sabo stares him down for a bit, but there's not much he can do, it seems, with the team behind him. Red, a bit of damage. Speed, he's in, he goes after Sabo, Cataclysm's out. But Sabo, false promise, going to save the day. Cassius C, he's going to time the Gyro, at least for the Aegis. Tornado, EMP is going to fly out, making life a little bit harder for this Gyrocopter. A Cookie as well, they're just chipping away slowly but surely. But he's still going to go in for that mid-racks. Not playing any games. God Strength still up on speed, but he's not going to make the jump in. Wind and Rain now, 2 racks is up. Are happily going to back out.
Yeah, they've gotten a lot there for Wind and Rain with that Aegis. They managed to make it a lot harder for Eboys to walk around the map. Someone's got to be always back here to de-push the wave, de-push those super creeps. And Eboys, again, it all boils down to that buyback. Their set of buybacks into the Roche Pit. They didn't really get the follow-up. They just bled some kills out, Wind and Rain. Now they're 15k behind because of that, and you do have a massive amount of gold in Cassius C compared to speed. Like, this Gyrocopter is massive. He's going to go into the Butterfly. The evasion's going to be really tough for the Sven to deal with. You don't have space for an MKB here. And you're going to have just so much more damage flying through that. The armor you have on a Sven doesn't feel like it's going to be enough now, even with the AC, to mitigate a lot of it. So there's just tons more to play with. They even have the Aeon Disc up on Sabo. So you can't instantly burst that Queen of Pain. She's always going to be around to get the Hex off, get the Orchid off. And that just makes it, again, very difficult to find that opening here for Eboys.
Sword. We spotted by Red, but they do also see the Invoker in the end. Smoked up here, Speed again. Still very grouped up, Eboys. Do they want to go for a fight? They're still very low on buybacks. Like, you need a minute and a half for Speed to have his own one up. Wind and Rain, they're going to try and make something happen before that point. You don't really want to give the secondary life to that Sven. Only issue being, they don't have the Aegis, but they do see Giant on that top side. Going to make the jump in. Giant, perhaps a bait here from safest play, of course, for Wind and Rain is to just wait out the next Roshan. That might be the idea. Just keep all the lanes pushed in and get a crazy net worth advantage before you do end up going high ground again. Looks like everybody's building up scythe devices as well, so you're gonna have so much control. I believe this is gonna be their second on the Timbersaw. But considering the fact that you also have a Lion with a Timeless Relic on top, 3 hexes is going to be a real problem for Eboys.
Yeah, it's too much control. They can chain stun the Sven once BKB drops. Speed his BKBs down to 6 seconds. So he doesn't have too much time to get his damage off. Needs to find a couple of lucky crits when he does pop the God Strength to really win out. And they're just stuck to the high ground. There's not much Eboys can do right now. They're just trying to wait for perhaps a couple of key item timings. I think once you have refresh up on speed, you have more options to play with. You've got more time on the God Strength. You can look to get some max durability out with more BKB time. But it just feels way too far off. They do have buybacks back up on their Sven at the least. So there's some leeway here. Take a risk. But you really are lagging behind. 18k is not insignificant. Especially considering how close the game was. I think for a long time, the max gap was around 6k. So you have to find an answer for the Gyro. You have to be able to jump him in the back line and just take care of Cassius somehow, while also taking care of the Oracle, while also taking care of the line. There's too much to watch out for. It just gets very difficult for Eboys to find the same angles they were a while ago.
Cassius is very close to that butterfly now. Found another double damage rune, by the way, at that top rune spot. He's going to run right past it, and he'll just be like, you know what? Butterfly plus DD, this is going to be a pretty big power spike. Wind and Rain, they're just waiting. They'll give him the bottle. Roshan, 10 seconds till we find out when it is going to spawn. Your Wind and Rain, you'd love an early spawn. Of course, for Eboys, they'd prefer it be much later on. It's going to be a minute. Not too bad.
Yeah, not much of wait time there for Wind and Rain. They're going to definitely take control of that objective. They've got control of the triangle. They've got the wards up. They can spot the movement out from Eboys. Eboys need to kind of get a cheeky smoke around the Roche Pit. They can't afford to give that objective away. They need to be able to get an Aegis up for themselves. Maybe even a free Ags would be super big for speed. Having that Superman back in play will certainly fix some of that mobility issues Sven has. They do smoke up now.
Speed, he's in, he found Y. The Oracle, he's gone. Still Borko, also caught, is going to die now. They could go. Roshan's still 15 seconds away. But those respawn timers are quite high on the support. They should be able to at least force buybacks here from Wind and Rain. There it is. They'll scan out the Roshan, both teams. Seeing it now. Yeah, Eboys, they don't really have much of a choice. They've got to try and force the buybacks. There's one. I think they want the second, though. Sword, gonna show up. EMP Tornado, there's your second buyback now. Speed gonna go on the Gyro. He does find the stun, but he wants out. Homing Missile is gonna connect. He does not have a BKB. Speed needs a way out of there. Glimmer Cape is out. Giant might die. Sonic Wave. Sabo finds 4. Call down is down. They get double A. Albino Zebra probably gonna drop, and there goes Speed. Not great. Definitely not great for Eboys. But Wind and Rain, they're going to be very happy as the buybacks are flying out, but the Roshan's already gone. They're not going to have the time. Tornado is there, but not fast enough. What do you do now?
You have to hold out, hold high ground, try to find a pick off again. Wind and Rain, if they get reckless, you can take one out, get some comfy to go into the high ground fully. Really unfortunate for Speed. He got caught in a really ugly trapple though. Cassia.
They go on the Timber. Albino though, with a double Chakram, is taking so much damage. Giant. Ice Blast is out. Red will Hex up one. It's going to be the Lion. They want the Dire back. Sabo trying to help out, but Speed, he's got the Lion. They've got one down. Cassius C now going for a fight, but the Ice Blast, the passive was still going. He just melts. They might kill Giant, but they've lost Y as well. That's a double dieback on the side of Wind and Rain, and now they found the Timber. Sword, he's going to try. BKB up. It's not going to be enough. The chains did not reach a tree fast enough. Onto Cassius C now. He's going to try and run, but there's 3 heroes down on Wind and Rain, and they just can't push. They've lost the Aegis. They can't make the high ground happen, and Eboys, they're going to hold out a little bit longer.
Yeah, well, what the hell is happening? Like, this is such a back and forth game. It looks like Wind and Rain is closing out. They lose the Aegis somehow. And now they're in a very awkward position where they can't really push high ground. But you had 2 diebacks on Eboys. This is the best outcome they could have hoped for. Like, they managed to make the buybacks work. They get the defense in their last set of racks. You're getting some space out still for Speed to farm up. The refresh is going to be up relatively soon. And maybe time to wait for the next rush, although Red is sort of hunting here.
He spotted out Sabo, but we're just going to be able to blink out very easily. Like, Cassius C going for that Moonshard build up now on the Gyrocopter. It's going to add even more damage, but that doesn't appear to be the problem. It's more so just if the Sven gets close, and you've got the Ice Blast on you as the Gyro, it just does not take much to kill you off.
No, it really doesn't. Like, you have to watch yourself in the Ice Blast. There's a lot of pressure here for Albino Zebra to actually land it every single time, but he has been landing the big ones when it mattered. So Eboys are just constantly kept in the game by really 2 players. Albino Zebra and Giant have been setting up this entire game to enable the side of Eboys to still play. Like, it looked wonky in the lane. They suddenly came out with Blink and the Centaur. Now they're relying on Albino to keep isolating these big heroes, trying to just burst them down with the Ice Blast. Wind and Rain, they do respawn off.
Lane behind Sabo. Don't see anyone yet. Oh no, they do. They found Albino. Hex is out. He's definitely gone. No buyback. Great start for Wind and Rain. Is it enough to go high ground though? That's the question.
It feels like it. Like, without Ice Blast, you're a lot more durable on your Gyro. The Timber Saw's not under too much threat. They could just cheese up as well as needed, and should be the last of the racks.
They're going to try. Speed's going to go through the backside. He found still Borko. He'll go after the line, try to burst him down. But the Hex is out. Cataclysm, Borko. He's going to tie Sonic Wave. Drags the spin up to the high ground. That's going to save the day. Still, they are going to continue the fight, though. Giant taking a lot of damage, and so is Red. They've got the Invoker. Buybacks around. Giant still dropping, getting very low, but Speed in the backlines onto Sabo. In fact, never mind. He'll go after Sword instead. The Timber, the False Promise, going to buy more time. Double A Speed still trying to get this Timber down, and he might just die after this False Promise is dead. Or maybe not. Sword, he's still going, and he's going to be full HP. Back on a Speed. He will get the die back. That should be it. That should be the GG. It looks like Wind and Rain are going to be able to force it to a game number 3. Eboys, they can try, but without the damage output of the Sven, it's going to be very hard to defend this. But they are going to jump in and try this one out onto the Gyrocopter. Maybe they can do it. Or maybe not. Double A is going to be turned on. Red with the Chaos Meteor is going to be off the mark. He gets the Tornado off, but it's not going to be quite enough damage. He'll get back to the fountain. Still Giant. He'll save the day. Back in with the double edge. He has enough, but Sabo is going after the Ancient now. He's just focusing objectives, and that's going to be the way to play it. Wind and Rain will be able to force this to a game number 3. Eboys, I mean, it felt so close yet so far in this game too, John. It was a very entertaining matchup, though, I must say.
It definitely was. Electronic Boys, their start went off a little slower than they'd have liked. They gave a lot out to Wind and Rain that time around from the laning phase. Then they bounced back in. They were never too far behind in their Sven. Speed managed to make that gold work really nicely, but then they take an awkward Roche fight. They bought back, they died back, and they did it again. I think there was 2 situations where they bought back to try and contest Roche back to back. Really is what cost Electronic Boys there. That decision making towards the end just not quite lining up. Wind Rain does manage to find a punishment. Very hard fought victory. Very close match, but I'm excited to see how game 3 works out. We've seen the best of both teams now. They are looking fantastic at their highest. We'll see who does come out on top in the last game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this series is getting quite close, and Game 3 should be very interesting to see what kind of drafts they come up with. For now, it is MLP Dota and JohnXFire, and we should be back in roughly 10 minutes for game number 3.